Hey Shark Tank, it's Greener here coming to you with another video, and this one is a community service video. I was surprised to notice how much XP guys are leaving unused and not taken advantage of through training. So I was just going to make a quick video on this just so that everybody has the same advantages and is taking advantage. This is free XP and takes very little effort to do each week, and I really think everybody should be taking advantage of it. The first step that you have to do is figure out who you're going to develop, and that's decided basically on first of all, position groupings. You can develop 2 positions on offense and 2 positions on defense, and also the archetype that each of those positions have. So you have to match your scheme that you're going to run offensively and defensively with the positions that you're intending to develop, and try best to match up the top archetype with the coaching scheme, and that's going to give you maximum training XP. As you can see on offense and defense, there's many options here. So what you have to do, and this could take some time, and you might want to change players' positions from time to time so that you get the best fit. Maybe you have a left outside linebacker that's a run stopper, but it's the right outside linebacker that in that particular scheme for that coach that is the run stopper. So you switch them, those positions on those players, so that he has the appropriate archetype to get maximum training XP. Now you don't have to play him there in your depth chart in your game. You can just switch him in your depth chart accordingly to wherever you want, but it has to be the correct archetype to match your coaching scheme to get training XP to the maximum. That's the key point to make in all this. Now that we have committed to a scheme here, which in this particular instance it looked like I was developing my quarterbacks and offensive line, I have to make sure that double check and make sure that those positions and players at those positions have the correct archetype to match my coaching scheme. And you can see that the scheme, that if it's correct, in the top right corner, just under the NFLPA logo, the drop-down menu is kind of half covering it, but it'll say scheme fit in purple. And if it has that, you're in good shape. So you can see it good there right now. Right under the NFLP logo, there's a purple scheme fit icon. If you have that, you know you're in the right archetype that matches your coaching scheme. That's what you want to see. If that's not there, you're not going to get maximum training XP. So I'm looking at Stitzer here. He has strong arm as his top reading right now. So now we got obviously, and he has the appropriate icon. So he's in good shape for in this instance. When your player has 2 archetypes that are tied, he's eligible for both of those archetypes. But sometimes the system doesn't recognize that those 2 are tied, and all you have to do to fix that is just to go in and change the scheme, and then see if it catches on and locks on to and gives that icon. And if it doesn't, go and change it to another scheme completely different, right? And then come out of that menu, and then go back in and change it to the scheme that you wanted to have, and double check it, and that generally should take clear of that small little glitch. And if it's tied, it'll move over to the correct archetype that you're referencing and give you maximum training XP. So here I'm going through my offensive line now. In this case, my interior line has to be power block, and my tackles have to be pass block. And all my players are power block. So I'm going to have at least one player on left tackle and right tackle that are not going to get maximum training XP. But I'm going to make sure that everyone else is in the interior line, either listed as a guard or a center, so that they get the maximum training XP. So here I make sure all my younger players are all either at center or guard, and I left DeCastro in a depth bum at tackles. Figured DeCastro, he's already at 98 overall, and it takes so much XP for him to go up now anyways. It's not going to make a real difference in him if he misses out on this training XP. So you got to make these decisions sometimes. You're not going to find the perfect scheme. It's very difficult to find the perfect scheme that matches your archetypes 100% correct. So you got to manage it. You got to go through it, and it's trial and error. Maybe sometimes you got to develop a player and increase his archetype in a certain position to get it into the scheme that you're working for the rest of the team. Maybe you have 3 cornerbacks that are man-to-man and one that isn't. Obviously, you're going to try to develop those 3 other key players, and slowly, hopefully, you can move that 4th cornerback into the correct archetype so he eventually receives maximum training XP as well. The other option you have is to change that player's position. Maybe you can move him to free safety or strong safety, and he'll match the appropriate archetype for that scheme as well. Now that doesn't mean you have to play them at free safety and strong safety. The rules allow you to switch those in between cornerback as well. So you can have him listed as a free safety, and maybe that's the correct archetype for maybe he's a zone archetype, and you're developing man-to-man at corner. And if you do that, maybe you move him to free safety to take advantage of a zone archetype at free safety. But in the depth chart, you simply play him at cornerback. It's all right to have it's not going to change his in-game play at all if you have your free safety at cornerback. For those of us that have, ADHD, maybe that might get a little bit under your skin for perfection reasons, but it really has no impact on how he plays. It's just a tag on the game. And don't get hung up about that. The XP is far more valuable, that's for sure. So, manage your players accordingly. Switch their positions so that you get them in the best scheme fit that matches, the best archetype that matches the scheme that you're working with. And sometimes that'll take a little while, and maybe you'll have to increase the get a boost at a certain archetype to get it to the top rated level so he'd be eligible for that particular scheme. But that's just part of how the game works, and the challenges that we have is balancing all these different things and trying to get the maximum out of it. All right, so at this point we're moving on to the actual training part of this task, and the first thing that you got to do is pick an offensive and defensive game plan that matches the two groups of players that you're trying to develop that have the appropriate archetype and scheme that we spoke about earlier. As you can see, each different game plan have two different groups of players that they focus on getting XP for. Some of them overlap, some of them have multiple options to go through. And it's worth noting that besides the XP that you get in training, there is an in-game bonus for each of these particular tasks that you're running. So if you're running Inside Zone as your game plan, whenever you run Inside Zone in the game, you're going to get an XP bonus for running that particular game plan scheme. And that goes for the defensive side of the ball too. So that's something to keep in mind as you go through all this as well. But for our purposes here right now is we're focusing on training. So we want to find the two groups. So we're not really concerned of how it impacts us on the game and the day-to-day games. What we're concerned more is finding the pair of player groupings that matches the players that are in the right archetype and scheme that we're trying to increase their total amount of XP that they earn. So then now that we've committed to a game plan, we got to make sure we have gold level icons on each of those, or we have to play it again and make sure we get that gold level icon. You only have to do this once. Once you obtain gold level in each of those little mini games that you play for each of those game plan schemes, you can just sim it after that, and you're going to receive the maximum training XP each time. So you got to put the time in initially to get that gold level icon. Some of them are tough. Some of them can be a real pain to do. But once you've done it, it's locked in for good. You'll never have to think about it again. It's done. And literally you can just go through the training sessions by hitting, changing it to sim and start your training. And it literally will take you 3 to 5 seconds to get through that process, which really streamlines it. And, you know, you're not forced to play those ridiculous games over and over each week to get that XP. You'd be surprised. Not a lot of people realized that was the case. So let's make sure that you understand that. Okay, so I have gold in both of those situations, so I'm just going to sim it for my case, and the training process goes through here, and we'll see the results here. Now the focus training guides will come up here. I tend to try to have younger, high development players as the focus training players. That seems to have the best results for me, because the younger they are, more quicker they are to get those upgrades, and the higher development, more XP they're going to get for their focus training. And that's none of this focus training has nothing to do at all to your scheme or what your archetype is. That is exclusively only relates to what your development rating is. Higher your development rating, the more XP you're going to get. If you're superstar, you're going to get 330. If you're star, you get 220. If you're quick, you get 110. And if you're normal, I'm not even sure what you get at normal. I don't think I've ever focus trained anybody that's normal before. As far as the results go for our training inside each position, you can see here that the bonus XP that you get for having the correct scheme matching the archetype is 685 XP for the players that are the top 2 in the depth chart. That's a huge amount compared to what you receive for normal and quick development players. I think normal development players receive 221 for the drill XP. Quick development players, I believe, receive around 340 or something like that, 486, something like that. And star gets a little higher, and superstar is a little higher from that. But you can see for quick and normal development players, you get way more XP just for matching your scheme and your archetype correctly than you do for even getting gold level drill XP in your mini game. So that's how critical it is to making the effort to get your scheme to match your archetype. Is that bonus is really that much, and it's obviously completely worth the effort to get those all locked in correctly. Now I think that's going to bring an end to my video. I think that basically covers everything. So in a nutshell, what you want to do is just take the time to lock this in. Take the time to figure out what players you want to develop. Find a coaching scheme that best matches those players that you want to develop. And then make sure that those players have the right archetype that matches that scheme. And there's going to take some time for you to manage this. But the brilliant part of this, though, is once you put the time in and you get it locked down and all set, you got it. And then you can just move forward. It literally only take you 7 seconds to get through training XP. Sure, you might have to make sure people are in the right depth chart positions. But once you get a system locked down and you get them all set up how you want it, and you know how it rolls, It can be really a quick process. And this XP is a significant amount, really adds up. Take the time to do this. You're going to see, after a while, you're going to see more upgrades coming your way, and your players will obviously develop faster. So I hope this helps you out, guys. Good luck the rest of the year, and happy holidays to you.